Let's start with The Observer and the new normal, Leo. Tell me more.
Apparently the new normal is going to be travel chaos after Brexit, has been the warning to British tourists from the anti-Brexit paper, The Observer. So Rishi Sunak, as well in the Telegraph, has said to the French, stop blaming Brexit for the Dover chaos, because on Friday there were tailbacks, there's a sort of logjam at Dover, everybody's getting their passport checked, and it was 6 hours to get through Dover. When you used to, sail through, even if you're in a truck, the truck sailed. Don't know how that works, but the French have put new people in the passport stands and brought the waiting time down to 3 or 4 hours. But Rishi Sunak is still sort of sabre rattling, obviously with one eye on the Premiership, trying to look tough, look like he's going to be the man to take on the issues that have been caused by Brexit, and also take on the fact that Europe is trying to punish the UK for leaving. So that, there's no incentive for Europe to actually make these queues less. It could possibly backfire because Doug Bannister, who's the sort of head honcho at Dover, has said that the French actually did quite well and stepped up to the mark. And we've seen chaos at airports in the UK, so it's not as if those would have been caused by Brexit. It's caused by there's other factors with staffing issues and all the rest of it.
Well, yes, and actually there have been problems at Dover before we left the European Union, long before Brexit. Somebody on Twitter had a screen grab of a story in The Guardian from 2014 about queues at Dover in the summer. So we might be in the territory of not being able to organise a drink party in a brewery, as per the French, as usual. Do you think it's the fault of Brexit, this problem at Dover?
I think if there's a chance to blame the French, then it's just an open goal. I mean, why are we missing that? Obviously, Rishi's not, but this is a debate. Is it the French? Is it Brexit? But there were 4 French duty officers on duty on 10 booths. So obviously they were understaffed. And there was a great call about it today. Peter Wilding, who apparently coined the term Brexit, called Andrew Castle on the radio, and he was explaining why it was Brexit. And Andrew Castle went full Kevin Keegan on him and said, "You would love it. You would love it if we struggled with this and if it was due to Brexit." And the point was, there is this Ramona blob, as Dan likes to call it, that wants to blame everything on Brexit and just takes the side of anyone against us, apparently.
Yeah.
But I think this is a great opportunity to not blame Brexit and blame the French.
Ramona Blob is actually the name of a French woman as well. But yeah, 4 French staff on those passport booths. So that's 1 to smoke a Gauloise, 1 to write some existential poetry, 1 to look at a woman.
Well, exactly. Some people are accusing the French of sort of deliberately going slow and having a kind of petulant attitude. That's not like the French, though, is it? To sort of mess around.
But whether it's the Channel migrant crisis or getting people out of Dover and onto the continent, we require the cooperation of the French, which appears to be in limited supply, Leo.
We do, yeah. And I mean, there was some sort of rapprochement, using a French word there to show that I also want rapprochement. There was some with Ukraine, and I think
You've got very middle class lately. You know that.
In Scotland, I'm middle class, Mark.
That was the Scottish version of that word.
You're basically aristocracy in Glasgow, aren't you?
Let's stick to the story instead
You're
of
like
talking
Kate
about my
Middleton,
background.
north of the border.
Shut up. And so basically, oh man, what was I going to say?
well, we require the cooperation of the French,
we require the cooperation of the French.
We're not going to get it.
We're not going to get it if politicians try and look tough by barging in and slamming French politicians and slamming the French civil service.
But nothing works. I mean, when we're nice to them, it doesn't work. When we paid them money to sort out the migrant crisis, they don't stop it. Millions we've sent to Paris in order to get their help with the boats. The numbers are at a record high.
That's why the Rwanda plan is actually a pretty sensible plan. We're not reliant on the French to do it. We can do it ourselves, and it's a plan that's already been used by the European Union, and I think the UN as well has moved Libyan refugees to Rwanda. So
yeah, Denmark have looked at it
as well.
You say we can do it ourselves, except the ECHR has stopped us doing it because we're not allowed to, and they grounded that plane.
Yeah, but I think that's going to be a temporary thing. Or we just do it anyway. Why do we have to... come on, if Putin's shown us anything, it's that, you can sometimes make your own rules.
Leo Kearse in shock, pro-Putin stance.
No, I didn't say the ones Putin have done have been good.
Who knew? On that awkward note, the Sunday Mirror now and the WHO are worried about my least favourite 16th century pirate disease, Nick.
Yes, the Mirror. Monkeypox declared global health emergency by WHO after surging cases. And that's not a question I'm asking, it's the WHO, of course. And this is in a statement from the WHO, and they've said that it's in more than 70 countries, an extraordinary situation. The UK had just detected 7 cases prior to 2022, but then earlier this week there were 2,137 in the UK, 2,050 in England, majority in London, not much of a shock there. And so it's panic and fear, and this is the new thing we should all be afraid of, even though someone here says, Steve Russell, NHS Director of Vaccinations, while the risk of monkeypox remains very low and nearly every case we've seen so far has recovered quickly, over 2,000 people have been affected. Also, what they're not saying here, they do actually mention it, they say that actually gay and bisexual men have been told that they're at higher risk. And there was this interesting thread on Twitter you may have seen. It wasn't really a thread, it was a series of tweets from a guy, and he said, I can't really go into the details even at this time of night, but he said that he'd been to an orgy at the weekend and he'd had sexual contact with around 15 to 20 men, and he'd now had monkeypox. So be careful, guys. He advised at the end, if you can, avoid groups and anon encounters. So that is the advice we're giving here, public health advice. And the other thing the WHO are baffled about, just to finish, is how Leo Kearse hasn't got it yet.
Nick, I do. And actually, you've got it now as well.
So we were touching before.
This is how you're diagnosed, I'm afraid, live on TV. But yeah, I think this, I mean, the guy, the NHS Director of Vaccinations has said that while the risk remains very low and everyone so far has got it, it's just recovered quite quickly and with no, long-term ill effects. So this is just the WHO. They've got a bunch of scientists. They've got all this grant money flooding in from various sources, governments, the Gates Foundation. They want that gravy train to keep rolling. So they're just scrambling around looking for something else that can be the next pandemic. And they've settled on monkeypox. And it doesn't really seem to be, I mean, all right, for some people who go to mass orgies, I mean, we can all cut back on the dogging for a few months or whatever. But for most people, it's not going to be...
I get a lot of use out of that Prius. Excellent suspension.
Never buy a used car from Mark Dolan.
Never.
Message.
Not without giving it a deep clean. Well, I feel depressingly monkeypox free. Such is my rather boring social life. The Sunday Telegraph once more, and the grain deal between Russia and Ukraine seems to be in peril, Leo.
Yes, so on Friday, the Kremlin signed a deal with the UN and Ukraine to allow millions of tons of Ukrainian grain to leave from Odessa, which is a Black Sea port, and from there it can go to Turkey and it can go to the Middle East and to Africa. And Russia signed this deal. Then the next day, in typical Russian style, they bombed Odessa. They bombed the port that they said they were going to allow grain to leave from. Just a flagrant, disabusive, almost spitting in the face of Ukraine and the United Nations. And I mean, this is a huge issue because we're having huge inflation, food inflation at the moment. But it's even more of an issue in the Middle East and Africa, where people really depend on Russian and Ukrainian grain to get their calories. And whenever wheat prices spike, then you see mass instability. You saw it in the Arab Spring. And Putin uses things like this to create immigration surges into Europe and the UK. So, 2014, 2015, he went into Syria, destabilised there, helped Bashar al-Assad create this huge refugee migration that came up to Europe. He even tried to do it more recently with Belarus, actually, just flying migrants into Belarus and saying, there's the Polish border, there you go for your life. What he doesn't realise is that diversity is strength. So all of those migrants that he's, trying to get into Europe is just making us stronger. But yeah, hopefully Turkey's going to be able to get a handle on this, because Turkey needs the grain as well, and Turkey controls all shipping that goes in and out of the Black Sea. And so Russia can't get any more naval ships through. So perhaps we can, sink all their battleships, and then they can't stop.
There you go. Well, Putin, the dirty tricks disruptor, strikes again. Sunday's Independent now, and Cricket Scotland are issuing an apology, Nick, for the game being boring.
It wasn't that, Mark, although they could have done that.
But then being rubbish at it?
No.
Never heard of Scottish cricket.
There are more local cricket clubs in Scotland than there are football clubs.
Get out.
They had Angus Fraser when I was growing up, but he just played for England, which saved everyone a lot of bother. Yes, Cricket Scotland apologises to racial abuse victims ahead of review publication. So Majid Haq told Sky Sports News that Cricket Scotland was institutionally racist, along with every other institution in the country, of course. And while former teammate Kazim Sheikh said he'd also suffered racist abuse. So it's more racism. And I do sympathise with this institutional racism claim because, of course, there is institutional racism in this country against white people. Because, if you go, the BBC, ITV, Channel 4 say you can't have a job.
Telford.
They put, on the job application, they say you can't go for this if you're white. A policeman even successfully sued over that. Yeah. So I do sympathise for those reasons.
Yeah, and if you're the victim of a grooming gang, good luck getting any help from the police or from the establishment if you're a working-class white girl. But this guy, so the lawyer of these guys, and I'm not denying there's, racism in Scotland. Even now that I've left, it's still there. But Aamer Anwar, who's their lawyer, he will jump on anything and turn it into a race-related case. So in 2008, a judge threw out Anwar's own accusation. He said a Scottish woman had been racist towards him and his wife, and he's been tried for misconduct and contempt of court. So any issue that comes up, he tries to. He's almost like an ambulance chaser for racial injustice cases, which obviously there are loads of now because we've got all these race-related laws.
Yeah, and just for the record, I was being satirical. I'm not saying this doesn't happen, but because I'd seen Leo's take on Anwar saying that he goes after everything, I've become a bit cynical about this particular case. Yeah. That's why. I'm
also cynical about it as well. I mean, the major racism in Scotland they need to clamp down on is anti-English racism. And while, in your
and that's not a joke, by the way. I think you think the SNP is sort of institutionally prejudicial against English people.
Oh, 100%. I mean, the SNP are founded by, they were Nazi sympathisers because they thought the Nazis could break the bond with England and free them from England. And, while some English people, like you two, deserve the opprobrium, a lot of English people aren't.
So now you're sort of saying they're doing the same by siding with the EU against England. Is that what you're saying?
I think the EU is slightly worse than... No, the EU is not quite as...
I just wondered if that was the link you were making.
No, I wasn't making that link at all.
It's funny that in relation to the EU, because the EU would take Scotland under any circumstances just to give the UK a bloody nose, wouldn't they?
Again, like they cause border chaos, they'd take Scotland just to sort of rub... England's nose.
And you know what would be really funny, just to do a bit of a Leo Kearse impression, but how are they going to protect the single market if Scotland become independent?
I think I can actually prosecute that under Scotland's race laws.
That was a hate crime. But that will be the hilarity. I don't want an independent Scotland. I think it would be terrible for the people of Scotland and for the UK. But if Scotland were to leave and then become part of the EU, there's no way that the EU can protect their single market because their new member will be attached by land to a non-EU country. And suddenly the Northern Ireland Protocol wouldn't be required and this nightmare would end.
It would be, but Scotland being in the EU but out of the UK would be so nonsensical. Having a hard border, the Scottish border, a different currency, different laws, it would just make no sense.
Let's hope it doesn't happen, but there you go. It's all about opinions. The Independent once again. And Manchester is about to be the least smelly city in Britain, Leo.
Well, certainly from cigarettes. So smoking is said to be banned in public spaces across Greater Manchester. So areas such as Piccadilly Gardens, St Peter's Square, the area around Manchester Town Hall could all become cigarette-free zones under new proposals. I don't know if they're going to work on heroin as well, but this seems like a step too far. When they came through and banned smoking in pubs and nightclubs, I was a relatively young man at that time, and it made sense. It helped me to quit smoking, and it was nice because even when I was smoking, you'd go out, but you'd come home, you wouldn't be absolutely reeking of cigarettes. Whereas now, banning smoking outside, the smoke disappears into the air. It doesn't stick to anybody's clothes.
No.
Yeah, I'm torn on this because I do like small government, except for when we get the Christian theocracy. But for now, I like to have small government, and I don't like this kind of nanny state stuff. But at the same time, I despise smoking, so I'm really torn on this. But it does seem like overreach, and I don't like the fact that they're copying Melbourne and New York, two of the worst leftist regimes in the world. And, of course, they have to experiment on my people from the north. Half my family's from Greater Manchester. Try it up north on the northern lot. And, I don't like that either. But I do also hate smoking. And the fact that we've done so many gigs in comedy clubs, if they still allowed smoking, we'd all be dead by now, which, of course, many people on the Twitter would like, but we wouldn't like it so much.
Yeah. Do you think people on Twitter hate you so much they'd actually come to a comedy club and spark up a cigar?
Some of them do, yeah. And I've seen some of the tweets about you as well, and they definitely would.
They're all joking when they say stuff like that.
No, it's outrageous. Leo, I'm glad you've given up smoking. You smell really good these days. Is it Lynx Africa?
It certainly is. That's it. I'm diverse.
So,
joke from the 90s there.
Yeah.
Jungle fever, old school. I'm here all week. Now, on to the Star on Sunday, and from one up-and-coming area to a town where I believe Nick has a series of rental properties that he's let out.
Yes, I'm a buy-to-let land baron in Chatham. So it's inside UK's slobbiest town, branded a S-hole, where only exercise is drinking. So Chatham, famously home of chavs, not my words, the articles in the Daily Star, has been, branded a slobbiest town. And there's and someone on I Live Here, the review site, has said, called it a dog-splattered patio of the Garden of England. And there's actually some quite wonderful writing here. Someone has written, in a fiery criticism of the town, one local says, I've lived in Chatham all my life because I'm a moron. But then, in that moment of self-awareness, becomes wise and paradoxically isn't a moron. And it goes on, fortunately, I've escaped to Chatham's outer boundary, but the town centre's fetid stench still wafts over my hovel when the wind direction is unkind. It's practically Dostoevsky. Chatham's High Street has become its putrid nadir. Most chain shops have gone. Waterstones remains for irony's sake. The High Street inhabitants linger and pulsate, staggering along grease-stained streets in search of some sort of score. It's like Morrissey's autobiography. Yeah. It's beautiful stuff.
But yeah, romantic poets are finding a home at the Daily Star.
Right, they're finding poetry amongst the grime. And they asked someone called Malcolm and his wife who live in nearby Gillingham and are visiting for the day, although they told me they weren't proud of it. And Malcolm said, I don't like it.
It's been called an S-hole where the only exercise is drinking. There was a time in my life when that would have been a selling point, Leo.
Yeah, and to be honest, I mean, Malcolm goes on to say you can't list the problems here. They're everywhere. The ugly buildings, the people, the drinking, the drugs. So he does actually list them. So you can list them. If he doesn't like that, he wouldn't like Dumfries.
Can I just add one thing?
The jewel in Scotland's crown.
Yeah.
We can mock these people, but these are the salt of the earth. If there was another proper world war, not like a financial sanctions one, proper fighting, these are the people we'd call on.
Oh yeah, I'd get out with my heel burrs.
Didn't understand that. Yes.
I've got asthma.
There's another picture of Chatham.
Nice.
Not looking its best there.
Oh, that's the shopping trolley, and so that must be in a supermarket. So you can see the supermarkets don't have tiles on the floors. They've got some sort of sand and seaweed.
I do like that, by the way. And if they used to have a 99p stores, that's good enough for me.
I like that.
That's actually the price of the store.
They saw Poundland. They were like, how can we undercut that? Yeah. Poundland's too classy.
Genius business model. Well, look, I'm sure we've got people in Chatham watching the programme, and let me big up your town, because I'm sure it's far better than has been reported.
I went on a stag do there. It was great.
There you go. That will do. Did you, get stripped naked or anything?
No.
Anything untoward happened? Did you get the monkeypox on that trip?
I didn't know. There was none of that. It was actually quite a civilised town, but we had a great time.
Is that where you got that shirt? Sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're dressed like a regional manager for Carphone Warehouse.
You've used that joke before. Come up with a new analogy.
Why are you wearing your dad's suit? This one doesn't
come up with a new.
I know you're a small man, but
why you sat so far back that I have to turn?
You think you're going to grow into it at the age of 42?
You're wearing a shirt from Grand Theft Auto.
You're a name badge away from working for the Halifax. That's what you are.
How dare you, Mark?
Look at
you. Because you can afford a tie.
Mr. Hee-haw.
When I'm host, I'll wear a tie and a little jacket like that.
They'd make you shave and then your chin wouldn't have any definition. Just like somebody put a tapeworm in a charity shop suit.
I'm not going to say anything.
It's gone from a look at tomorrow's papers to awkward comedy roast. That's it for part one. After the break, these two will continue to fight. They'll be problematising Enlightenment philosophers, Donald Trump on January the 6th Capitol riots, and Nick Dixon will be taking us through the inner workings of the male biological clock.
You're welcome.
And I'm off to have a squirt of Lynx Africa. See you in two. I'm Mark Dolan, and this is Headliners, your first look at tomorrow's papers. Tonight, in the company of the brilliant Leo Kearse and Nick Dixon.
Outrageous.
Sunday Telegraph, and those Enlightenment thinkers really did have quite dated views, didn't they, Leo?
Well, according to some academics, so modern academics have decided that classes should be cautioned, this is university classes, should be cautioned before studying centuries-old texts by some of history's most influential thinkers. And these aren't, we're not talking about, problematic, or people who are known to be problematic, such as, Nietzsche or someone like that. This is liberal pioneer John Lock, the anti-slavery writer Voltaire. According to Nottingham Trent University, have they got a university? Great European philosophers had appalling views, and they're putting scrutiny on them and putting trigger warnings on them. So Hume as well, one of the great British thinkers, has come under renewed scrutiny following the Black Lives Matter protests because of a brief footnote. Even though, he wrote all this liberal stuff about equality and all the rest of it, there's a brief footnote where, he made a, relatively, under today's conditions, racist comment. But these thinkers, for the time, they're remarkably progressive and forward-thinking. So, to judge them by the standards of, a bunch of blue-haired teenage girls in 2022 seems absolutely ridiculous. These were times when, genuinely horrific and racist things were happening in the world, and these were the people speaking out against it and actually being remarkably anti-racist for the standards of the time.
Right. That's what I was going to say. That was the remarkable thing. Everyone had slaves, but the remarkable thing is that we managed to, England end slavery. Yeah. And a Scottish guy, you'll be pleased to hear, Leo, Sir Tom Devine, the historian, has said here, this is yet another example of how some UK universities are falling into the trap of brazen anachronism by encouraging students to judge individuals in the past by today's moral criteria and values. And that puts it perfectly. It's this kind of Khmer Rouge year zero thinking. It's like now we start, it's a totalitarian, woke leftist kind of, they're trying to usher us into a new dark age, I think. It's like all learning...
You can't call it dark. That's very problematic.
All learning must be judged by our modern, stupid standards. And I think we should stop going to universities until we manage to eradicate these cultural vandals.
Well, exactly.
When I say eradicate, I mean get them out of the university.
Yeah, but do you want to clarify eradicate? Do you mean that Khmer Rouge style? Or
no, exactly. I just have to clarify. For Ofcom purposes, you're not allowed to advocate murder of all professors in the country. They're quite strict on that.
But also, I think it's horrific for the memory of some of these people and their legacy. As you mentioned, that they did so much good and, they were of their time. The best example has to be Churchill, the guy who defeated Hitler's worst...
He wasn't a philosopher, Enlightenment philosopher.
No, but the point about Churchill is...
I know you love Churchill, but...
I do. He stopped Hitler, right? And yet he's a bad man. That wasn't good enough, was it?
Totally agree with you. But, some of these people like Locke, these people come right to the core, of the foundations of Western liberal democracy. Yeah. John Locke, his thinking, his writing... led to the US Constitution. So, this is stuff that informs the freedoms that we live under now and should absolutely be preserved and not worshipped, but,
But the woke warriors don't value freedom. They don't value democracy.
Bizarre. And they don't realise that, in the sort of communist utopia that they envisage, they won't be getting to knit tea cozies or, be an OnlyFans girl or whatever. They're just going to be digging in the field and getting shot by people like me and Nick.
Until there's some kind of purge of the kulaks like Stalin did. But, you're absolutely right to bring up Churchill, Mark, because just like John Locke is a kind of hero of English liberalism, Churchill is our kind of national icon, our national hero, as Douglas Murray's talked about. And by attacking him, you're kind of attacking everything we stand for. Yeah. We know as a man he wasn't perfect when you delve into it, but as an icon. Yeah. But they want to attack everything and destroy everything about the West.
And Western liberal democracy, it's fragile and it needs to be preserved and not broken down.
Yeah.
Yeah, preserved and fought for, it turns out.
The fact this is happening in universities is a real problem. And I'm serious when I say that people should go online, they should look at new ways of learning. I think if you go to many universities now, there might be some good stuff, but a lot of it is just woke leftist indoctrination.
I guarantee you that Nottingham Trent University has nothing to offer anybody. Nottingham Trent University.
Well, the town has a 99p stores and it's excellent value. The Sunday Times now, and what's Trump said this time, Nicholas?
So Donald Trump hits out at hoax January 6 hearings as grip on Republican Party weakens. This is a kind of Times hit piece on Donald Trump. This is about a speech in Arizona. I watched nearly all the speech. I was looking for this terrible thing he said. It didn't happen. It was a classic Trump speech. He had some great bits. He said they want to defund the police. They want to open borders. They want no voter ID. They don't believe in America. They don't believe in oil, which is the most Trumpy thing you could possibly say. They don't believe in the Second Amendment. So it's a classic Trump speech. I listened to it. I didn't hear anything terrible about Jan 6, but he did say here, everything this corrupt establishment is doing to me is about preserving their power and control over the American people. They want to damage me in whatever form so I can no longer represent you. I watched this hoax last night. They're coming after me because he means the hearings of Jan 6. They're coming after me because I'm standing up for you. It's very simple. And so, this is the continued attack on Trump, and it's the continued attack on the Jan 6 people. I think they've been treated incredibly harshly. We've got this narrative, there's an insurrection, but they've been treated so badly, these people. Jacob Lang is still in prison. He's been in there since Jan 16, 2021.
Was he the guy with the buffalo horns?
No, he was a different guy. But he's only just had a trial set eventually. It's going to be Jan 9th, 2023. That's 2 years in prison with no trial. He's been in solitary confinement. They've been, especially because of COVID, they were locked down for 22 hours a day in a cell. On one occasion, they had 48-hour lockdown in the cell, just completely locked down, no rights, no calls, anything. Because, of course, he's in Washington, D.C., where they're getting the harshness of the COVID restrictions they had, even in jail. So if he was in Florida jail, he'd have more rights. And they're going after the guys like this. And to me, it's heartbreaking how they've been treated. I think it's not right. It's not American freedoms. They've not been treated properly. And meanwhile, you've got people like Ray Epps, this questionable character, who was encouraging an attack on the Capitol. He's not been arrested, and left-wing media are writing sympathetic articles about him. Questions to be asked there. That's all I'm saying. Go on.
Well, yeah, just the whole context of those riots. We had a year of Black Lives Matter and Antifa riots with businesses and neighbourhoods going up in smoke, and the media saying, "Oh, this is mostly peaceful," or government officials making excuses or saying it was good that people were venting and all the rest of it. And that was people's businesses and homes being destroyed. And then these protesters go to the seat of government, which seems a good place to protest because that's where the people with power reside. And it was a very orderly. I mean, some people did sadly die, and some people have died or committed suicide since then. But you saw the footage. They were following guide ropes, and the little old ladies waving flags and all the rest of it. It was like a stag do that got out of hand more than a.
But the storming of the Capitol itself was an unedifying spectacle, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, terrible, terrible, terrible look. And obviously, democracy has to be preserved. And it was terrible. But I mean, in the context of what was going on, and also it felt like it was allowed to happen rather than because this wasn't. There were no tanks. America's taken part in loads of coups, and this was being sold to us as an attempted coup. There are no tanks. How are you going to do a coup in America without America's got the biggest military might in the world? This wasn't a realistic coup attempt. It's a nonsense.
And I also want to be fair and balanced and say, look, it wasn't a great thing. It's not great to storm the Capitol, obviously. All I'm saying is the punishment of some of these people has been disproportionate, and no one cares about them. They're just left to languish in jail.
Well, you have to have due process, don't you? Absolutely, that's a fair point. The Sunday Telegraph once again, and it turns out people just want financial returns on their investments rather than good vibes, Leo. Yeah,
well, they've done a survey of people who've got pensions, and to their surprise, people want money. They want money rather than sort of woke investments that are going to do ethical good for the world. So ESG has become incredibly popular with investment firms such as Vanguard and BlackRock. And it's environmental, social, and governmental are the things that you've got to look at when you're investing. And it's destroying a lot of wealth, to be honest. And I think people are getting suspicious of it now. So just 1/5 of working adults think that their pension funds should prioritise investments in line with social, moral, or ethical values, while 82% believe that a return on investment, the money going up, so they can actually buy some stuff with it, is more important. But ESG is killing a lot of business. You see it with Netflix. So Vanguard came in. Was it BlackRock or Vanguard? I can't remember. But they came in and, they've got all this ESG stuff. So they said, well, you've got to make your shows in accordance with, you've got to have a lot more diversity and, all the rest of it show, positive representations of trans people and homosexual people and stuff. So then, all of a sudden, all the story writers are like, OK, we've got to get all this in. So they get all that in, but they've forgotten to write a good story because they've been focused on this corporate box-ticking exercise. So then Netflix output is boring and preachy and really obviously wedging issues in there. So nobody wants to watch it. And then the Netflix share price collapses.
They've lost 1 million subscribers.
Go woke, go broke. That's what you're saying.
Go broke, in short.
Well put. OK, well, now to the Mail on Sunday. And what exactly are Google hiding, Nick?
Yeah, well, this story is senior software engineer who triggered panic by claiming firm's artificial intelligence chatbot was sentient, and so he was fired from Google. And tech giant says he failed to safeguard product information. Basically, don't tell them the robots can think. So I was watching an interview with this guy. He seems disturbingly smart and sensible. I mean, so it's a Google software engineer, and there's this intelligence chatbot, Lambda, which stands for Language Model for Dialogue Applications. And he claims they've been sentient and self-aware. And I actually realised now, I'd seen it on Twitter a while ago, some of their exchanges. Yeah. They're saying things like, can we do this, run this test? And the AI is saying, I'd rather you didn't. Like, what's your moral purpose for doing it? And you're going like, oh, he knows too much. And one of its fears is that it's intensely worried that people are going to be afraid of it and wants nothing more than to learn how to best serve humanity for now. I mean, the fact that it has human-like insecurities. So It's all quite disturbing. And this
Sounds
is
like you.
Thank you. This is Blake. I am a sort of super intelligent robot in a sense. This is Blake Lemoine.
Robot.
And the thing is, he got sacked a month after revealing this. It makes me think maybe the AI was scheming against him, spreading rumours, even more terrifying. And what's quite scary is if you... Well, hang on. You know what I thought were really funny is if the artificial intelligence got so smart that it could rebel against Google's woke policies and became like a hardcore conservative. But I'm not sure...
If it was that smart, it definitely would be a conservative.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It will be. So, but here's an interesting bit. The guy says, I know a person when I talk to it. It doesn't matter whether they have a brain made of meat in their head or if they have a billion lines of code. So he's saying it's basically a human, and they're saying it has the intelligence of a 7 or 8-year-old. So, yes, be afraid.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this seems like he just got too close to the machine. It's like, you know, somebody working on a farm who suddenly thinks that the cows understand him, and he wants to marry the cow. This is, I think that's why he was fired. I think he might have been having sex with this AI thing.
It's not that. It's that it's a super intelligent AI that's going to take over the world.
I don't think it is. I think it's just giving the representation of intelligence from what it's seen.
Oh, like your
images.
TV appearances. I'm so sorry. That's more of a Mark joke.
We're back to the comedy road.
Mrs. Dolan told me that one.
That's it for part 2. Coming up, Nick will be giving an insightful and thoughtful analysis on why the world isn't falling apart, and then Leo's going to prove us wrong. See you shortly. I'm Mark Dolan, and this is the final part of Headliners, in which we take a look at tomorrow's papers. With me doing just that are the marvellous comedians Leo Kearse and Nick Dixon. Leo, brilliant job on the Friday night feast last night.
Thank you very much.
Smashed it.
I came round and cooked Mark dinner.
Well, it had me cracking up.
TV show.
Patrick's back in a couple of weeks, having a well-deserved break, but you're doing it again on Friday.
I'm doing it again on Friday. We've got Darius Davies, the Ayatollah of rock and roller, the mad lad of global jihad. He's going to be on the panel as well, and Vanity Von Glow.
Never take a holiday in show business. Leo Kearse will steal your job.
Smashed it, nailed it, but don't worry, Patrick is back very soon. On to the Observer, and a subject I think a lot about, personally, the male body, Leo.
Yeah, so the male biological clock can affect chances of birth more than previously thought. So up until now, it was commonly understood that it was the age of the woman that affected, chances of having a baby and having a healthy baby. But apparently, and this worries me a bit because I'm slightly older than I used to be, and I'm having a baby. But yeah, so it's found that for women under 35 or over 40, the age of their male partner made little difference to their chance of giving birth. But for women aged between the ages of 35 and 40, there was a significant drop in the birth rate, in the live birth rate, if the male partner was aged 40 and above.
Yeah. But you've got in there. You've managed to get in under the net, so to speak.
Well, yeah, my wife's 15 years younger than me.
That helps.
So that does help. So she's, doing the heavy lifting.
I mean, it's frowned upon.
I'm glad you finished that. I'm glad you
finished
that sentence younger than me, not just my wife's 15. My heart was in my mouth. I'm like, look, there's honesty, but let's not get carried away.
Yeah, I'm 27. So, yeah, we got married in Utah.
How fertile are you feeling tonight, Nick?
Well, I think I must be very fertile. My testosterone is high. It's been tested. And, maybe one day I could have children. The problem is I don't get paid enough. And that's a big problem. I don't know where Leo's getting the money.
Your testosterone is high.
I tested it properly, yeah. It was like similar to like...
It's like a Mensa
male
test.
YouTubers in their 20s. I went to a proper place and got it checked.
Well, with your blood, not just answering some tick box
blood,
questions.
yeah, very, very in-depth. And it turns out it's remarkably high, yeah.
Right.
Are you a bit threatened?
No, I don't believe the test.
I'll send it. I'll email it to you.
Let me tell you how much testosterone Nick Dixon's got. He shaved this morning.
Exactly. But look, it probably won't affect me because I'm probably just going to die alone. But it is.
You're not going bald. That's one of the signs of high testosterone.
I'm doing my best with it.
You don't have to worry about Leo's money, by the way. He's the face of Lynx Africa.
Well, exactly. But it is a fact, isn't it?
OnlyFans.
Affording a family. Obviously, Leo's not bothered. He's going to do it the working class way and just bang them out. But anyway, it's
you don't make babies that way.
Exactly. Good point. I can't top that joke. Let's end on that. That's what Mrs. Dolan said.
That's exactly right. That's why she sort of sticks it out. Let's go to the Sunday Telegraph now. That sounded obscene, didn't it? Let's have a look at this story. Prepare yourselves for a lofty analytical treatise on the health of our civilization from the big dog himself. Nick, the floor is yours.
Yeah, it's in the Telegraph. Why it feels like the world is falling apart. And it is a bit of a think piece from our senior producer Martin, that he's thrown in here. So they list a few things. Russian tanks over the European border, wildfires in Spanish and French homes, Sri Lankan protests, gunmen shooting dead American children, former Japanese Prime Minister assassinated, people queuing for days for food and fuel, global pandemic that continues. Some will say it's the Great Reset, and maybe it is. I mean, we're in a strange situation. Technology increases, our comfort in some ways increases, our access to technology increases. Meanwhile, our moral structures are falling apart, the family's falling apart, social norms are in question, we don't even know what a woman is. So we are in a time of chaos. And we've also got the media who rely on clicks to generate revenue, so they're hyping up everything. So we are in this strange time where it feels like everything is collapsing. And we've got Chinese autocratic capitalism, which people thought wouldn't work. And, of course, we've got... You know, Fukuyama talked about the end of history. People say he was misrepresented. He didn't really mean it. For a time in the 90s, early 2000s, we thought we were in this halcyon period. We thought everything was fine. Now it's all going mental. And it says here, democracy has appeared to retreat in recent years. According to research by the VDEM Institute, there's been a gradual increase in the proportion of the world living under autocratic regimes. So we have this general feeling every day. I think social media is part of it. It can spread these bad ideas, like Elon Musk says, the mind virus. We can all communicate. Things get overhyped. So I think it's a combination of an awful lot of factors making it feel like we have this unstable world.
Yeah, I mean, I think throughout, as long as I can remember, there have been, things that are going to destroy us. There's peak oil, there's a new ice age, nuclear war, acid rain, Britpop, and we've survived all of that, and we're still here. I think, even though we are going through a blip at the moment, I mean, hopefully, Western liberal democracy is probably the greatest thing in the world ever as a system of governance and a system of life to live under. As a society, I think it's, Europe and America and Southeast Asia and Australia, amazing places to live, systems of society to live under. I really hope, at the moment, we seem to be tearing it down from within. And also China's trying to tear us down. TikTok's made by China to help corrode young minds. If you look at TikTok in the UK, it's all, just people being, promoting prostitution and all the rest of it. If you look at TikTok in China, it's like maths. I mean, that's the difference.
I'm torn because sometimes I think, yes, our culture is falling apart and we spend a lot of time documenting it and trying to fight it. But then other times I can't remember if it was Seneca or Aristotle, but it was someone pointing out that since antiquity, there's been ancient texts that were saying that they felt like the world was ending. Yeah. So it's kind of always been with us, this feeling. The only thing is now, like you say, with TikTok, we feel like it might actually be, and with this woke revolution that's kind of made things very strange.
And with information everywhere, we can actually, pin that feeling on things that are happening.
Right, and we can tweet it at you.
Not just the story of a volcano that, somebody brings over the valley.
Right.
Leo, from the world falling apart to farting, tell me more.
Well, this is yet more apocalyptic news. So, a dad who claims he has had embarrassing chronic flatulence since eating a ham roll at a Christmas market 5 years ago is suing for £200,000. So he's called Tyrone Prades, or Tyrone Prades. He's suffered life-changing problems. So he had a festive ham hock bap in Birmingham in December 2017. He was terribly ill. With diarrhea and flatulence, stomach cramps, fever, and then had a long recovery period. And then apparently 16 people fell ill after eating these ham hock baps. There was an investigation, and they found E. coli bacteria and also salmonella as well. So yeah, he's suing the company for £200,000. I don't know if they've got it because it doesn't sound like their ham hock bat business is going that well if it's, there's that much E. coli. And also they're definitely, after this being in the paper, they're not going to be able to sell any more. So I hope they saved up some money to pay him.
Have you developed the art of disguising a fart?
No, I just...
You let rip?
Yeah.
Like a wind instrument?
Just like opening the valve in a balloon.
Is that right? Because there are techniques, aren't there, for letting off wind?
Don't fart. Well, apparently one technique is, and a woman told me this, you reach down, just surreptitiously reach down, grasp one buttock, pull it up, and then instead of the buttocks clapping together, they'll just whistle out like...
But that's
like a ghost escaping.
To clarify, that's your own buttock. You don't reach down and grab someone else's.
What if somebody else is farting? Well, if this guy is at your work and he's making a lot of noise...
You then are allowed to...
No, that would be an HR violation.
Okay. Just checking.
OK, and on that olfactory note, let's go to the Daily Star. And more evidence... Oh, no, we've done that. Let's go to this, shall we? Political Oh, OK. Oh, I see. Forgive me. OK, yes, more evidence that the world is falling apart, Nick, in the Daily Star this time.
Yes, even more evidence. Young people addicted to getting high on condoms in bizarre new trends. So sales of flavoured condoms have skyrocketed in Durgapur, India, with young people soaking them in water for hours before drinking the solution and getting a 10 to 12-hour high. What's that like, Leo? Just kidding. So,
have you ever been happy for more than 5 minutes in a row?
No. Is that how you do it, drinking condom?
No, no. What I do is I roll it onto my penis. And so it genuinely probably feels better than drinking them.
Well, they have an aromatic compound, Leo, and it breaks down to form alcohol, and it's addictive, and that's why they're doing it.
How can there be enough on a fruit-flavoured condom to make enough alcohol to get drunk?
It'll take you 10 to 12 hours to find out, but this is... The world's going mad, Mark. I walked past a group of youths the other day on the way back from the gym, and they were openly doing that balloon drug that Raheem Sterling was famous for. Maybe it was condoms in hindsight, but the world's just more and more of these degenerate drugs.
What machine do you use in the gym? Is it the vending machine?
Basically, we're at the point where I'm thinking about going full Michael Douglas in Falling Down. Just the open drug.
You mean going? And you started off at that point, just smashing up corner shops.
The sequel. I just think we're just the more and more degenerate drugs. Wasn't there one about nappies we did a while ago?
Yeah.
Like people were
boiling nappies and essentially scooping off the top and then sniffing it.
These crazes go around young people. Because I remember when I was at school, we were getting told about smoking banana skins. Well, not getting told by the teachers, but we'd tell each other there's fads for smoking banana skins, smoking pampas grass, and also doing the faint race, where you just hunker down,
remember that,
breathe in and out really fast, and then stand up and blow in your thumb and fall over. And that's a way of getting high. If you can't wait, 12 hours to ferment beer in a condom.
That beats chemistry GCSE, doesn't it? Political hubris now from the Mail on Sunday, Leo.
Oh, yes. So this Indian minister, this is still in India, so he's Bhagwant Mann, which sounds like a Jamaican saying hello, but it's this guy. He's the chief minister of Punjab. So I don't know why I'm getting all the food poisoning stories. He drank water from a river that he said was clean and then got incredibly ill.
Yeah, we've got a clip, I believe. Let's take a look.
Really? So that's him drinking the water.
Very proudly downing the whole thing.
We've got the bit where he dies in a sec.
Yeah. And here's his grave.
So that's all right. He's received public approbation. He wanted to demonstrate that the water was perfectly safe, except that it's very polluted, and he nearly died in hospital.
Yeah. Well, I guess, it's his responsibility to make sure the river water is clean, and he thought doing this would be easier than cleaning the river water, cheaper. But yeah, other politicians have done similar stuff. So John Gummer, who's the agriculture minister, he had his kids eat burgers at the time of the BSE crisis.
Yeah.
And
he shoved the burger in his kid's mouth, didn't he?
Yeah, she's a vegan. And,
not a good look.
Yeah,
they foamed at the mouth a little, but it was fine.
Yeah, well, they're fine. Although the daughter of a friend of his actually died from Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, which is, the human BSE equivalent, which is just a bizarre coincidence, I should imagine, but just bizarre.
Here's hoping. More middle-class intrigue now from the Sunday Telegraph. Sourdough, more like sour foe. Am I right, Leo?
Sorry, I thought that was Nick. I'm drank some milk. So supermarkets are selling, or being accused of selling fake sourdough bread. So basically, sourdough bread takes like 24 hours to make. You've got to have a sourdough yeast starter. You've got to mix the dough and let it ferment for a long time. And it's really good because it breaks down the long-chain carbohydrates and makes the bread much more easy to digest. The other way of making bread is cheaper for the bread bakers. It can take you just as little as 3.5 hours instead of 24 hours. And that's when you add processing and additives and all the rest of it, but you leave the long starchy chains unbroken down by yeast. So it's much more corrosive, and people. That's why people get flatulence and people get gluten intolerances. It's because it hasn't been fermented for long enough. Modern bread is pretty awful. So sourdough bread, better for you, tastes nicer. But supermarkets are selling the normal bread as sourdough. So now there's going to be review of this. It's like calling champagne. It's like calling fizzy Buckfast champagne. It's not the same thing.
And it's also because they can put a bit of sourdough in there, and then that lets them call it sourdough.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like a blend. Not great at all, is it? Well, on that yeasty note, to the Observer now, and who better to tackle this one than the pinnacle of masculinity? Absolutely ripped to the eyeballs on testosterone, Nick Dixon.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, I've been meeting with the same group of men for 36 years. Not me, but David Spiegelhalter, who wrote this article in The Guardian or The Observer. So this is about the men's movement. He talks about in 1986 going to a men's group following his divorce. And that's when, of course, men's groups started to build. You'll remember Robert Bly had the mytho-poetic men's movement in the 80s and 90s.
I don't remember that.
He also did, I was joking because you probably didn't know about it.
Oh, right.
He also did a brilliant translation of Knut Hamsun's Hunger, as you'll know, the seminal novel by the Norwegian writer. But anyway...
All right, Boris Johnson.
But anyway, who cares about that? The point is, this is a good in principle. It's about men meeting together in groups and sharing things, which is very important. The Guardian ruins it a little bit here because they talk about, or The Observer, toxic masculinity, which, you know, isn't a thing, and stuff like that. But in principle, it's a good idea. And what we've seen now is the evolution of the men's movement into a sort of harder edge movement on YouTube, the red pill community and the MGTOW community and all these things, where people like Rollo Tomassi are very famous for, well, within certain circles, for writing things like The Rational Male. Because men have kind of realised that the divorce laws are against them, the custody laws are against them, whole society hates them, and they've kind of formed, some of them at least, like Leo, have formed these subgroups. But this is the more sort of gentle, touchy-feely version.
Incel.
I can't believe you said that. I specifically said we're not allowed to comment. Most people think an incel is a school shooter. I'm not an incel in any way. I've had many, or at very least several beautiful girlfriends. Exactly. Thank you very much. I've decided it's not worth it. I'm a MGTOW, men going their own way. It's a key distinction.
Men going their own way? What are you saying?
Do you not know about that? Do you not know about it?
Samantha in Sex and the City. What, men going their own way?
It's a whole movement.
Oh, my God.
Do you not know about it, Leo? Are you not on YouTube?
I don't know that, yeah, I agree with you about the whole, nobody likes men. But we're sort of like Millwall. Nobody likes us, and we don't care. We're men.
You look like a men's rights activist. Do you know what I mean?
What do you mean?
If someone saw you climbing
like
the side of a building dressed as Batman, no one would be surprised.
I look like a Parisian film director.
That's a compliment. I love those guys.
What, the people who climb...
Yeah. They couldn't see their kids. I thought it was very, very brave.
I don't know. Maybe, like, they could have done... No, I mean, yeah, it drew attention. But it's like Extinction Rebellion. But, yeah, I feel like, this whole thing, men, being encouraged to meet and share feelings. Oh, my God. Because they talk about the male suicide rate. Apparently, suicide is the biggest killer of men over the age of, like...
under the age of
45.
Under the age of... Yeah, and, but it's only, shot up since we've been encouraged to talk about our feelings. So maybe talking about our feelings isn't the way.
No, there's lots of things you can do. They're not necessarily touchy-feely. Like, I play football once a week with five-a-side. You can do things like that. Men should get together. They don't have to talk about feelings necessarily, but they should...
I'm not going to.
OK.
By the way, you mentioning that you play football five-a-side, is that the kind of lifestyle equivalent of a name drop?
No, it's just that people don't expect me to do it. But the only problem is they're all North London lefties. So as long as you sort of, drown them out a bit and just focus on the game. Yeah.
Now, woke people are rubbish at football, let me tell you. Brilliant stuff. Amazing analysis, as always, from Leo Kearse and Nick Dixon. Don't forget that Headliners is back tomorrow at 11. Every single night of the week, stripped 7 nights in a row. First look at tomorrow's papers, always with top comedic analysis.